Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is Warline, and I'm joined today by my great co-host, Jack Fisher. Jack, how are you?
Hello, Lion. Thank you. Thanks again for welcoming me into your world again. I always appreciate it.
You're welcome, man. I always love having you here.
Cool, cool. So I'll let you have the floor. You can go ahead and get started.
Sure. So I think this week is a great week because, we're having Invincible, we have Daredevil. I think I'm not caught up on Invincible yet, so
hmm
sadly we're not gonna cover it this week. But I'm caught up on Daredevil because it's only one episode out, and I watched it immediately when it came out because, it's
Same
Daredevil.
here.
How can you not watch it? So, absolutely. So, what did you think of the debut of season 2, or technically season 5 of Daredevil?
I do think that it really hit the ground running here. It kind of gives us like this bird's eye view of what New York City is like now with Wilson Fisk as the mayor and how Matt is trying to do what he has to do sort of under the radar. Like this is probably the most under the radar he's been in any of the previous season, not including the Netflix series. This and it does kind of feel like this whole plot with this anti-vigilante task force, it does kind of mirror what we've seen in the real world, at least here in the United States with organizations like ICE. It really is it's taking a real heavy-handed approach to vigilantes. It kind of feels like now I can see how this would relate to what's going on with Brand New Day. But what I've enjoyed so far is one, we have Deborah Ann Wall is back as a major character as Karen Page. She kind of sat the first season out, but she's back and she's very invested this time around. She seems like she shows that she's ready to fight. She's trying to learn how to fight, but that's never been her strong. She's much better at fighting with the truth. She's kind of like Lois Lane in that she is more inclined to let the facts get out and let that do the fighting rather than her fists, because that is still Matt's department. And I do think the on again off again nature of Matt and Karen's relationship is it's more than messy. I mean, compared to what we saw with Elektra in previous seasons during the Netflix era, it does feel like it's a bit all over the place with Karen. I mean, I get why she likes Matt. I get why she's drawn to him, but I also get why she sometimes pushes him away. That's always been Karen's issue in the comics. As much as she cares for Matt, she will push him away when she knows his worst traits are showing. And right now, after that first episode, you get the sense, he's not. Matt is he's being the Kingpin is pushing him. It's like he's daring him. Come on, cross a line. I know you want to. Show me that you are as bad as I think you are. And he does have to walk the line, but I think that's when Daredevil is at his best, when his enemies force him to walk that fine line between being the vigilante he wants to be and just being someone as even worse than the Punisher. Because I think one of the reasons I like the Daredevil Punisher dynamic so much is Matt does not want to become Frank. I think that's one of his worst fears. I think this season, that after this first episode, it's like, oh, how far are you willing to go before you become someone like Frank? And because of the way Matt is wired, if he ever crosses that line, he's going to be worse than Frank, because Frank is a soldier. He's disciplined. Matt, he's just so much more of an idealist. And I think he knows that if he lets go of that, something much more dangerous is going to fill the voids. The fact that it ended on a cliffhanger, the first episode,
Yeah.
was another that was like, okay, they are not holding back. There's not as much setup. It's just, these are the stakes. Wilson Fisk has literally every advantage. Bullseye is back in the picture now, and he's not stable, and he's even less stable than he was before. So that's like Daredevil's got to fight a multi-front battle here. And it's one of those things where I don't know how he's going to manage it. I know he's going to find a way, but yeah, so far I'm really liking the first episode. What do you think?
Same here. I love the first episode. The thing about Deborah Ann Woll not being in season 1 is because of the shenanigans behind making Daredevil. I don't know if you remember that, but originally Daredevil or the Netflix shows were not canon to the Marvel universe, and Marvel was gonna take it to a different direction, just with Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, and they even like recast everyone else. They had a different, what's her name, Vanessa, and other people playing the characters we know. But then, after filming around 4 or 5 episodes, they realized that they want to make the Netflix shows canon.
Huh.
So they got everyone back, but schedules were weird. There were a lot of shenanigans behind the scenes. So not everyone was available to film like for the whole 8 episodes. And they didn't also have the budget because they spent most of it on the original show, the one that they ended up scrapping. That's why Karen wasn't in the first show as much as we wanted her to. Like she was there in the first episode and then the last two, if I remember correctly.
She
As
made it
for
count.
yep, absolutely. As for their dynamic, I think that their dynamic has changed a lot depending on the changes behind the scenes to what they want to do with the characters as a whole. Because, like, for a long time, they wanted to make them a thing, but then Elektra showed up and they were like, they are going to make Elektra a meta thing. So they wanted then to move Karen to the Punisher side of things because, like, she appeared, I can't remember if it was season 1 only or season 1 and season 2, and they wanted them to be a thing. But then season 3 came out, it changed the dynamic because, Elektra is MIA. I don't believe that she's dead because,
No.
her and Matt saw the same fate. So if Matt survived, she definitely survived. But like, since then, it's like, okay, they are gonna be on and off. And then the show was canceled. And then, it wasn't canon. Then it was canon. So what to do? And I think that right now they're hitting the right beats finally after almost 12 years now that the characters are finally together. And Charlie Cox is not shying away from saying that. He said that Karen Page is Matt's MJ and, she's his endgame, and they are ready to explore that side of Daredevil, especially because, the characters as well as the actors are getting older. Like, we're talking about, they have been the characters for 12 years now. So it's gonna be great to see them do that. And I think it's funny because, as we mentioned, Elektra, when Charlie Cox said that the actress portraying Elektra, I'm forgetting her name, I'm sorry, she said that Elektra wouldn't like what Matt said or what Charlie said, and she was like sharing devil faces all over the place.
I remember.
So yeah, it's gonna be fun to see that. And I think that, this topic created a weird discussion on Twitter, as always, because, people are like,
is there any other kind?
Yeah, there are fans of Elektra and Matt, a lot of them, and they are, disagreeing with Charlie, which is kind of funny because I don't think that these people read a lot of comics. What I mean by that, the problem with Karen is that she died in 1999 in the Joe Quesada and Kevin Smith Daredevil book.
Yeah, I remember that.
Which is kind of funny because, like, that was Joe Quesada's first relationship that he ended. And it was not the last one. Yep. So like,
poetic.
Yes. And at the time, this was sort of synergy because the Daredevil movie, Ben Affleck's Daredevil movie, is coming out, and it had Karen in it, but the main focus were Elektra and Matt.
Yeah.
But then after that, it's the Quesada era, so he's not gonna resurrect her. And like, for a long time, Dead was still dead. Like, whoever died will remain dead. That was the Joe Quesada, the Joe Quesada mandate. I'm sorry, I'm blinking on mandate for some reason. For a long time, at least until Fear itself. Like, that mandate stayed for Jean, for a lot of deck characters, until Fear itself resurrected Bucky Barnes when he died in the beginning of the event.
I'd love to talk about that event in a future podcast, but that's for later. But Karen Page, people, I think that looking back on it, it was kind of a sign of what was going to come under Quesada, but I do hope that they don't let it go quite that dark, because that around that same time, like the early 2000s, late 90s, Marvel Comics tried to be just overly edgy. I mean, we saw this with the first Ultimate Universe, and then we saw it with like some of the new costumes, which were, I think they were trying to get some popularity from the Matrix.
Absolutely.
I do think that edginess was detrimental in the long run. I do think Karen Page kind of suffered from that.
Yeah, I think we can discuss that as we are talking about the Fox-X-Men movies later on. Because, like, this is related to them and Avengers Doomsday, ironically. But going back to Matt and Elektra, I think that people forget that even when Elektra died, Matt hasn't been with Elektra for a long time. Like, Matt started to be with Elektra around the time the Netflix show adapted Elektra. So we're talking about season 2 of Daredevil.
Yeah.
Which is around the Charles Soule run of Daredevil. Like before that, we have the Brian Michael Bendis era and the Ed Brew Baker era, in which he was married to, forgetting her name, but she was a civilian who ended up being going crazy because she was married to Matt Murdock. That's
legit. That's a legitimate cause, legitimate reason.
Yep,
completely.
I mean it's There's a reason why the people who date him are Black Widow, Elektra, and Karen Page. 3 crazy people.
Yeah.
Yep.
It says a lot about the mental health about some of these characters. Yeah. And that in general.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think I made a joke. Yeah, I made a joke that I think it went almost viral where I say Logan and Matt Murdock are Marvel's biggest man whores. Like if you look at all the women they've been with, it's like, man, it's hilarious. And yeah, that's going to tie into our later discussion, but with Wolverine. But
absolutely,
yeah, Matt Murdock and Wolverine, they are like Marvel's biggest man whores. It's not even close.
I think that Matt Murdock had about 8 or 9 different girlfriends, like long-time girlfriends in the comics, which is crazy. Like, when people talk about Cyclops or Tony Stark, they talk about 2 or 3 people and they think that this is weird, but then like Matt Murdock comes with 8 or 9 different women.
Yeah,
and that's not including the affairs, because like Matt Murdock was involved in a couple of affairs. Like the Chip Zdarsky era, he was in an affair with a wife of one of the mafia people.
Yeah.
And around that time, he was married to this person that he caused her to go crazy. He was having an affair with another character. So like, okay, it's Matt Murdock, baby. He's crazy.
He's a Catholic, but not a very good one.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, I think that his next step would be dating the Scarlet Witch at this point, because like the Scarlet Witch under Steve Orlando has been like, okay, I'm overpowered, I'm weird, and I'm also fucking everyone in the Marvel universe.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, more power to her.
Come on, I saw that. I saw that spread with her in Vision. Yeah, I think.
Yep.
They could definitely tell where the power is going to her head, among other things.
Yep. I mean, the thing about Steve Orlando's run is that it misunderstands everything about the character. Like, it's not offensive. Like, when we're looking at it like 10 years from now or 20 years from now when it's done, I don't think that anyone would be offended by it, but I don't think that anyone will remember it fondly.
Yeah. Time will tell. Yeah. Marvel seems to be trying to balance a lot of overpowered characters lately. The Wanda has they've really complicated her powers. Not just so much her powers, but her limits. I mean, it used to be she did have some defined limits, but now that she's the Sorcerer Supreme, they've kind of thrown that out the window. And I don't know how you, how that gets resolved.
I don't think that the issue is being overpowered, because, Wanda has been overpowered for a long time. And we had a lot of overpowered characters. But the thing is that how to write them. If you remember back when Jonathan Hickman was making House and Powers, he had this Omega level list that he wanted to make because he wanted everyone to be overpowered, but in a controlled way or a limited way. And at the time, even in the Marvel office, people were against that, and they were kind of attacking Hickman because, no, my character needs to be overpowered to the point that he nerfs everyone around him. And, that created some issues. And I think we're going to discuss a lot of that with the upcoming topic.
Yeah.
Because, Jonathan Hickman is not the only one who thought about that stuff. I think we said that Joe Quesada wanted Jean because of that. Jean Dead, because of that. And before that, we had a lot of overpowered characters, and they were all fun. The Sentry is a fun character, and most of his continuity is cool. The Molecule Man under Jonathan Hickman specifically, Franklin Richards specifically under Jonathan Hickman.
Well, they nerfed him, of course. Yeah, but it wasn't Hickman who nerfed him. It was
no, it wasn't Hickman. I mean, later on, but Jonathan Hickman wrote him very powerful. The Sentry was written.
Was Slott the one who nerfed Franklin?
I think it started around Slott, because he was being slowly departed, and that was to make him not a mutant anymore.
Yeah. I could say a lot about that, but I won't.
Yeah, I mean, yep. And, that's the issue. Like, Marvel needs to figure out how to write them well. And to do that, they have to bring back a lot of people who can write well. I'm sorry, but Steve Orlando is not a good writer generally. He can write a good issue here or there, but consistently writing good comics, it's not up in his wheelhouse, I think that... Yep.
But
Go on.
I just want to say, if you want a good example of Wanda being written well, have you read Children's Crusade? I know that was a long time ago, but
Yep.
that's one of my favorite Wanda stories overall. Children's Crusade, I think.
Children's Crusade, you can go back to West Coast Avengers,
Mhm.
the era that Marvel adapts or adapted most of it anyway, and it's going to adapt more of it further in the MCU. You know, White Vision, Wanda creating her children, all of that stuff. That was from,
Yeah.
I believe that was the late 80s, right?
Okay, that was good to know. But yeah, we could talk about overpowered characters, and like we could probably do an entire pod on Wanda
Yep,
and what's happening with her.
absolutely.
Is there anything else about the first episode of Daredevil you want to touch on? There is one more
Sure.
point I want to make, and it's about Fisk. I don't think Vincent D'Onofrio gets enough credit for the way he's portrayed Fisk. I think I wasn't initially sold on him because I kind of know because he was a bit too soft spoken. But I've noticed that with the way Defoe has it, he can make Kingpin sound, articulate, deep. He doesn't sound like a crime boss. He sounds more like just a guy who understands power. Like if you know who Niccolo Machiavelli is, have you heard of
Yes,
Machiavelli?
yes.
I think Kingpin is kind of like the ultimate personification of Machiavelli's ideas about power. And the way that the first season kind of showed, okay, he does understand what he needs. He understands power. He understands when he can put on a good public face. He can be brutal in private when he has to be. I think it shows here in this first episode that he is navigating this power very effectively, but he's also vulnerable because he's partnering up with these weapons sales. He has to know on some levels that is a vulnerability, and as powerful as he is, doesn't take much for loose ends. I mean, eventually, if you slip up, someone like Matt Murdock we'll figure it out. And I do feel like I do like the way that Kingpin is being portrayed here. I mean, again, I wasn't sold when he first showed up, but he has definitely won me over, and I think this is probably one of the best portrayals of Kingpin we've had in quite a while. So, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think that the Kingpin is interesting in this season and throughout the series, like since its inception, because we see him, shifting his perspective on powers a lot. We see him as the Kingpin or rising to become the Kingpin. We see
Yeah.
him become the mayor, and before that, we see him lost in the Hawkeye area of things, like the
Mhm.
Hawkeye Echo area of things.
Mhm.
And, I think that he is now way deep into something he doesn't want to be into because
Mhm.
in season one, when he became the mayor, you see swordsmen challenge him. And he is like, yeah, we are not the thugs you're used to deal with. We are politicians. We are people who have more power than you. And if
Yeah.
you're not careful, we will harm you. And in this season, we start seeing that with Charles, who all we know about is that he works for Allegra de Fontaine, who
Mhm.
runs the New Avengers.
Mhm.
She's on a whole other level of power than the
Yeah.
Kingpin. And that actually reminds me of the Defenders. Remember back when
Yeah.
the Hand and the people behind the Hand became way overpowered than the Kingpin, and like the Kingpin was fighting to stop him, to stop them, and he couldn't do anything about it until like the Defenders showed up and
Yeah.
Matt sacrificed himself.
Yeah. Yeah. This guy, it's a good detail because if this show was kind of like if it gave the Kingpin an arc, I mean, the way he starts when he shows up in Daredevil, he is not the Kingpin that we know, but he's trying to become that. And one of the things about the Kingpin that I've always appreciated and what makes him a great villain is not the fact that he's so capable, is that even when he's defeated, even when he's outwitted, even when he faces a setback, he's resilient. He knows how to come back. Like when he was in prison, like I don't know if you remember, like in the former Daredevil series when
Yeah,
He
season
met Frank
two when he
Castle.
was
Yeah,
Frank. Yeah,
yeah, when he met Frank in prison, the way he took that prison over, the way he was able to essentially curtail favor, that shows you that even when you think you have him defeated, he knows how to navigate that. That's something that is because every time you see like certain powerful characters like DeFontaine from I don't know if you saw Thunderbolts or New
Thunderbolts. Yep.
Avengers. She
Yeah, I
is
watched it.
she does not handle failure very well. She does not handle she also does not like getting her hands dirty, but Kingpin will get his hands dirty. He can fight. He's willing to fight. I mean, he's willing to do things that I can't see Valerie Fontaine ever doing. So that is one of the reasons why I like this version of the Kingpin so much. He's not just that we saw him grow into this role, but the way he is resilient. Now, while when you think you have him beat, he finds a way to weasel his way out of it. Sometimes with brute force. That's what makes him so dangerous.
Yes. I think that my friends at Geekable are kind of mad that this season will end the arc of the Kingpin being mayor. But for me, the first episode set it up nicely where the best option for having Kingpin in the future is to not have him be mayor. Because
Yes, I
being
agree.
mayor put a spotlight on him that's not gonna go well with him being the Kingpin. Like in season 3, when you had him arrested, him and Vanessa, and they were supposed to be in prison for life, they could get out of prison, they could evade the law because, no one can notice or no one cares about them enough to notice. But when it's the mayor of New York and he is, he's kidnapping politicians, like Swordsman is in prison in this season. We've seen him in the last season kidnapped, and in this season he is going, like, as we've seen, Matt's ex is framing the Swordsman to be crazy, and things will not end up well for the Kingpin. And he will need to hide from the spotlight going forward if he wants to be the Kingpin and stay in power.
He's good at that though, and that's kind of what makes him. I don't expect him to remain mayor. I think it's at some point he's going to falter, but he always has a backup plan. He always finds a way to frustrate someone like Matt Murdock. Like, he's gone to, in the comics, he's gone to prison before, but he's always found a way to escape. He's always found a way to clean his image up. It's what makes him so remarkable. And I do hope that he still plays a role, even if it's not as mayor, because he's he's essentially the perfect antagonist for someone like Matt Murdock, and as well as the Punisher and Spider-Man. I mean, he's fought with them in the comics before, and it's tough to deal with him because one, he physically he can fight you, and also he understands how to build a system around him. That is, I mean, you can attack the man, but the system he creates, that's a lot harder. There's no superpower against that.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Vincent D'Onofrio confirmed that he is coming back for Daredevil season 3 already. So we know he's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And, he also spoke about wanting to be in Spider-Man movies. So let's see where that goes. Like, I think he tweeted a couple of days ago saying that Marvel and Sony should get their shit together and cast him as the Kingpin in a movie. Like, he literally wrote that.
I second that.
We know he's not going anywhere, and I love that. Mm-hmm. And I think that, this first episode sets up a lot of great things. We discussed the relationship of like Karen and Matt, and we discussed the Kingpin, but there are also other things. I mean, the Fontaine's mention made people think about Bullseye joining the version Avengers of Thunderbolts, or not the new Avengers. We are talking about the Dark Avengers, because I'm pretty sure that at some point we're gonna be setting them up in some form. We have them in the MCU.
Yeah.
Bullseye's there. We have, what's his name? We have the Sentry there, which is like, it's gonna be fun to see, because in the comics, I know Sentry is not married in the MCU, but in the comics, Bullseye killed Sentry's wife.
Yeah.
And currently we're dealing with that in the Sentry comic coming out these days by Paul Jenkins.
I saw that was really good. I like that.
Yep, I love it.
There's only one issue, but it's good.
Yep, it's gonna be fun to see how this goes, because we have the Red Hulk, we have Zemo, we have Bullseye. There is an interesting potential for a true Thunderbolts in the MCU going forward. I think Songbird is also in the MCU. She wasn't Thunderbolts as a comedy character, but we don't know what's gonna happen with her next. Maybe DeFontaine experiments on her or something.
Wouldn't be the first time she experimented on someone unethically.
Yep. I mean,
she seems to be very fine with that. Yeah.
Yep. And it's also gonna be interesting post the reboot, because the Marvel is not gonna do that at the moment, because they are focused on Avengers: Secret Wars and Doomsday. But post reboot, who knows who will have? Like, we're talking about the mutants in the MCU. Will we have Daken, who was a part of the Dark Avengers? We have what's her name, the mutant who replaced, who was basically Ms. Marvel for the Dark Avengers. I'm forgetting her name.
Yeah, I'm blanking too.
Yep,
I know
I
who you're
can't
talking
remember her
about.
name. Yeah, she was in the recent Mark Russell X Factor run. I'm forgetting her name for some reason. But like a lot of characters can be introduced here. It's gonna be fun. Let's see what they do with Red Hulk. I think that they're not gonna waste Harrison Ford.
No, you can't. He's a national. He's an
Yes, he was the like once they doomed the movie because of the political shenanigans that they forced themselves into. Harrison Ford was the one aspect that they kept marketing because they knew that the only way that they can even have the movie break even was to have Harrison Ford's face in the marketing.
Yeah, and his face is famous enough to pull that off.
Yep, and I think they did. I don't know if the movie broke even or made some profit, but it
It did.
definitely didn't lose money, which is fair enough for
Yeah,
them. At the point of at the point where they completely ruined it when they tried
yeah,
to cater with
yeah,
for a certain group, but then they realized that it was a mistake, and then they
yeah,
made everyone mad because of
yeah.
it.
Yeah, I
So
still think
yeah,
they made a mistake by not using Giancarlo Esposito. I was hoping that he was going to. You know who the character? Remember from X-Force that character George Washington Bridge?
yes,
I think Giancarlo should have played that guy. He would have been a really good character set up for in that movie. But that's just in my opinion.
yeah. We know that this movie had like 10 different versions of it because Esposito said that most of his scenes were cut, like 90% of his scenes were cut. We know that Songbird was in the
Yes.
movie and she was completely cut. She appeared in Thunderbolts as Mill, the
Yeah.
assistant of Lagro de Fontaine.
Yeah.
So let's see how things go.
Yeah.
It seems that with the success of Thunderbolts and the new direction Marvel seems to be aiming for, we'll have a good Thunderbolts sooner or later, hopefully.
I hope so.
So, since we're talking about X-Men, it's kind of funny that every time we talk about X-Men and whatever topic is hot nowadays, and ironically, the Kingpin plot in the in Daredevil when he became the mayor and then he wanted to escape after his crimes, he went to Krakoa and he became an X-Men character.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's
Yeah, because
it's
he married
kind of
Typhoid
funny.
Mary. He married
Yep.
Typhoid Mary.
Yeah. Who is in the MCU, but up till this
Yeah.
point, we haven't
Yeah.
confirmed that she's a mutant.
Yeah. We know she was in Iron Fist, but yeah,
Iron Fist, yes.
but I think that was before they could say the word mutant in any
Yes.
MCU. Yeah. So
Yeah. At that point, Marvel hadn't bought yet, and Netflix couldn't even say a lot of words because Netflix was so separate from Marvel.
yeah,
Like they couldn't even say Captain America or Hulk. Like they
I
would refer to
know
them in the shows as the green guy or the guy with the flag.
that is nuts. But then again, I'm sure
Yep.
that Disney. I've heard stories about Disney lawyers, and they are scary.
Yep.
They are very
I
scary.
mean, Netflix, when they saw that they couldn't handle Disney after what they did with Jeff Loeb and everything else, they were like,
Yeah.
okay, cancel the shows, let everyone rest, and give the characters back to Marvel.
Yeah.
That was their strategy. And if you remember, Disney did not calm down until Daredevil was the first show to be canceled. And by the time like Iron Fist and the other shows aired, Daredevil's rights were back at Marvel, which is why they used him in No Way Home.
Yeah.
And that's when Disney calmed down against Jeff Loeb, Ike Perlmutter, and everyone else.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we've already mentioned
Yep.
those two in previous streams, but it's worth mentioning before that Jeff Loeb and Ike Perlmutter were the nicest thing I could say is complications
Yes.
for TV and movies.
Yes.
Like I know it's very hard to know much about Perlmutter because he never does because he rarely shows his face in public. But he's the kind of person who if you try too hard to be creative around him, he will attack you. Like he's very. I've heard stories about what a penny pincher he is, and when it comes and what once he has also has a very one-track mind in which once he kind of narrows in on something, he gets very upset if you try to convince him otherwise. He's that
Yes.
kind of person, and I completely understand why Disney tried to get rid of him. At the same time, he the Perlmutter became CEO for a reason. Marvel was a mess in the late 90s, and
Yeah.
you needed they kind of needed someone who could pinch pennies to get back on track. So that's just I know it's a bit of a tangent, but
No, no.
as for Jeff Loeb, Jeff Loeb has been good at times, but after a certain point, you could tell he kind of phones it in.
Yep. I think that, the interesting aspect of this is that Hollywood in general benefits from people all the time. And as long as you're beneficial to Hollywood, you will remain in their graces, And once once you outlive this benefit, you are no longer needed, they get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happened with the whole Mother, Jeff Loeb, and Joss Whedon thing. Sure, there are stories of them being horrible, and there are truth to that, but there are also lies to that, because that's what Disney does.
Yes.
Whenever Disney wants to cancel someone, they bring out a lot of dirt on them. That some of it is true, but then they hyphen it up to 11. So
yeah,
that's the issue here. And I think that, Perlmutter was a Disney guy. Like, that's the way Disney handles things. But the reason he lost is because it became, he and Disney didn't agree anymore. As long as he and Disney agreed, things were so cool with them. But then they disagreed, and they were like, okay, you're out. And it took them a long time to get him out, if you remember. Like, they had to get rid of Joss Whedon and Jeff Loeb to do that. And after that, it took them 3 or 4 years to get rid of him, because, I think he left the company in 2023 or 2024. So
fairly relatively recently.
Yeah, like he outlasted everyone that Disney got rid of really quickly. Yeah. So I think since we're talking about Perlmutter, I think we should shift gears into X-Men and the 90s.
All right. You want to start?
Sure. So I think that we have been dancing around this issue a lot, and it's the Jean and Logan relationship. Like, we have mentioned it in past streams and even on social media all the time. And I think that I want to take a deep dive into it, and taking a deep dive into it will have us talk about the X-Men, we'll talk about the Fox movies, the future of the MCU and the X-Men 97, and, the characters as a whole. So if anyone's interested in this, you will definitely love our conversation and how it goes next. So I think that to establish what we need to talk about, I think we should talk about the history of the characters, which is actually really simple and relates to our last stream, because it's related to Madeline Pryor.
Yeah.
So when Chris Claremont took Logan from Roy Thomas and the people doing Hulk at the time, he had Logan, the guy who forgot who he is. He doesn't know anything about anything really, and he is attracted to the redhead, which is, it's fun for drama, it's fun for stuff. Attraction in general, like, it's normal, I think people mistake the attraction and being a cheater or being in love a lot. Attraction is a normal human emotion. You can see an actress and you get attracted to her. You don't know the actress, you don't love her, but you're a man, or you're interested in women, and you see a beautiful woman, you're attracted. That's it. And same thing, for the other gender and, other sexualities. And there was no issue with that. And for a long time, up until the Dark Phoenix saga, that was it, There might have been some attraction between the two, but if there was any feelings or anything, it was definitely one-sided.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until...
just quick.
Take your time.
I think early on, like before, it was before the Phoenix. You definitely could tell Logan was attracted to her, but Jean was more annoyed by it. She was aware of it, but she didn't. I don't know. They didn't really show her returning the feeling, but she thought it was annoying. But that only changed. I think that only changed about like afterwards. That changed.
Yes,
that was a later development.
Yeah, I'll mention it right now, actually. So this changed. No worries. I'm. Like, I have you here to talk, and I want to hear everything. Like, I'm interested in this conversation and everything you have to say, and generally, that's why I follow you, on YouTube. Way before I started doing the podcast, I've been listening to your videos all the time.
Good to know.
Yep. So what happened is that as we talked about previously, the resurrection of Jean Grey happened in 1986, and things were complicated between Chris Claremont, his feelings about the characters, and Jim Shooter. So at some point, they realized that they want to launch a spin-off title that retcons stories within the stories, which Marvel has been doing recently too, with those miniseries like the Gambit miniseries coming out soon, or the X-Men Legends series. The first series that came out in this vein of ideas was Classic X-Men. And in Classic X-Men #1, that was when the retcon happened, in which we see Jean being attracted to Logan.
Yeah, that was a big retcon. Yeah.
Yes, that came out in 1986 after 5 issues of X Factor already came out. So like Claremont was not happy about the developments in X Factor, and that was his answer to it. And since then we got a lot of a couple of stories with them in Classic X-Men that were weird to an extent.
They should be weird.
And they should be weird because, even with the development that Jean has feelings for him, she never really acted on them, and he would force himself on her. When you say that some people are like, you are attacking old creators or the best X-Men stories, no, I'm not. I love these stories, but that was an aspect in those stories. Like, how many times has Jean, protected herself against him, or even hit him because, he'd kiss her or something against her will?
She's not afraid. She is not afraid to hit back. That is something that.
She hit him a couple of times, and even when she you can see her in her monologue that she actually enjoyed the kiss or whatever, but it was a forced kiss, and she hit him back. So that's in the story. So I think then we move to Inferno. The first time they meet since Jean's resurrection is in Inferno. And he slips that first kiss on her, and she throws him telekinetically far away. And that's the first time you see her totally attracted to him, but no, don't be a weirdo towards me. And after that she gets merged with Madeline. You deal with her in X Factor, Helen Scott, and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then we get to the
the
90s. I think that I read the whole 90s era recently, and I think that it gets a bad reputation, mostly because of the Wolverine run, which is totally separated from the line for the most part, and the movies and the cartoon. Because
which one?
What
the
happened
Evolution or the 90s
cartoon?
No,
we're talking the 90s, so the 90s cartoon.
Okay.
So what happens is that what happened at that time is that Larry Hama was focusing on Jean as the main love interest for Logan, who didn't reciprocate. We deal with it similar to the X-Men movies dealing with it. He's in love with her, but she's not even in the book for the most part. And I think that you can see the division once Larry Hama had to cross over with the X titles. I think for me, the moment that stuck with me a lot is in Phalanx Covenant. The end of the Phalanx Covenant was in the Wolverine book. Yeah. And that was around the time Jean and Scott came back from their honeymoon raising Cable. Yeah. So Logan would fight Scott and Cable because of Jean, and Jean was very focused on Cable. She wasn't even focused on Scott in the story. She was
she was in mama mode.
Cable, she was focused 100% on Cable, and to the point there was a moment, it's a funny moment, where Cable and Logan get hit badly, and Jean and Scott run to Cable and hold him are you okay and whatnot, and Wolverine stands up and he says, I'm okay, guys, by the way, and Scott is yeah, we know, okay, Cable, are you
He's got a healing factor, come on. And
so I think that era of when Larry Hama did the crossovers, it showcased where Jean is really mentally versus where Logan is, because the whole line or the Logan run of it all is just Logan loving a person who's not on the run. Mm-hmm. He is imagining things basically, which is weird for
time.
Logan. Yeah, it's weird for Logan, the guy who has loved 100 different women. He has been alive for 300 years,
Yeah.
I get that he loves someone, but, it's not the first time he loved someone. Logan loved Itzo. Later on, we got to know that he loved Rose O'Hara, which complicates things further when it comes to Jean.
Yeah, because Rose looked just like Jean.
Yep.
I played with,
And
I played with, I don't know if you remember, if you know this, but I wrote fan fiction many, many, many years ago.
yeah,
And
you told me that.
I did it. I don't know if the story's still up. I did this story where the
I
memories
can't
of
hear you well.
Rose. I'm sorry. I told the story when I wrote this story years ago. I kind of played with the idea that Rose, even though he doesn't remember her, that locked memory way affected how he saw Jean. So
Yeah,
I kind of
actually,
played
that's
with that.
canon.
Yeah,
That's because Rose was introduced in the late 90s by what's his name, Daniel Way in
yeah,
Wolverine volume. And throughout the first issue she was introduced, Logan thought that she was Jean and she was calling
yeah,
him my love and whatnot. But then at the end of the issue, he realizes that she's not Jean and she's someone named Rose.
yeah,
And later on, we would have Karen Gillan in Wolverine Origins explored the dynamic between Rose and Logan. And then in my favorite Wolverine run, Daniel Way's Wolverine Origins, we deal with Logan and like basically his whole life, his
yeah,
different love interests, and everyone who's not Jean, which is one of the
yeah.
reasons why, to me, this run is elevated because you actually get to focus on Logan without the things that set him back. Because
Hmm.
I don't know if people realize that, but Logan is set back a lot by the Jean situation. It's not that
Yeah,
just Jean that suffers from it, Logan suffers from it too.
yeah,
And Scott, like, no one wins in that. The fans
yeah,
don't win definitely, and the characters stagnate a lot because of it.
yeah. But yeah, I just want to get on a
Sure.
soapbox real quick. I hate love triangles on principle, but I've yet to come across a single love triangle that is as bad as the way the Cyclops Jean Wolverine love triangle has played out. Not just in the comics, not just in the movies, which I know we're going to get to in a bit, but
Yep.
it's one of and love
Everywhere.
triangles in general almost never work out for everyone. It reduces a character to a prize. In this case, it would be Jean, and it reduces other characters to obstacles. Like it made Cyclops an obstacle, and sometimes it makes Wolverine an obstacle. Like I think the cartoon kind of made Wolverine out to be just a whiny, creepy, like obsessive, just a creep. And
Yes.
like literally no one wins. I mean, whenever there was a plot that involved Jean in the old cartoon, I was like, oh, not one of these episodes, because Wolverine just would not act like Wolverine. And same thing with Jean. The fact that her being stuck between, it always made her out to be like all her personality was just turned off in that moment. And
Yes.
it happened. I know this happens in every love triangle to some extent. I mean, whether you followed any other comics or other types of books, but love triangles never work. I've never come across a love triangle that has been beneficial in the long run. Is that the worst elements are all manifested with Cyclops, Jean, and Wolverine. Like if you
Yes.
want the worst
Absolutely.
example of a love triangle, they literally check every box.
Yep. I think that it's funny to say that because, for the long time, this wasn't the only love triangle in which Scott and Jean found themselves into, but it's the one that's problematic because it's stuck. Like, for a long time, Louise Simonson is the biggest Jean and Scott shipper, if we can call her that.
Yeah.
And she had, Warren in the mix for a while, but it was to serve this story and, create a little drama that, didn't harm the characters anyway. And by the time, we had the wedding of Jean and Scott, Warren would talk to her and he was like, Scott is an idiot for not marrying you back when we graduated Xavier School. And, she said that, he said, if I were Scott, I would have done that. And she was like, if you're the man I love, I would have gladly said yes back then. But, you ended that and you moved forward. They are best friends. They are a family.
Yeah.
Everyone won, at that point. Like, you told a lot of great Angel stories since then between the Nazis and the Dark Angel saga and him and Psylocke. Like, you had a lot of good stuff back then. But with Wolverine, like, you always have to regress everyone to make it work. And, as you mentioned, the cartoon made it work terribly. But the cartoon aspect and what bled into the movies is that we're thinking about the cool character versus the not cool character.
Yeah, that's another
Which is
dynamic that's important.
Yes, that dynamic John Byrne talked about on his blog at some point, and it was covered by CBR. So I'll link the articles I have and everything down in the description or the show notes, depending on where you're listening to us.
Definitely.
And one of the things John Byrne talked about when it came to Jean and Scott, as well as Reed and Sue, is that being the cool character makes this trope a thing, and it's always hard to avoid it, but you should avoid it. That was the John
Yes.
Byrne idea of it. And that's why, John Byrne was probably the most successful artist on Uncanny X-Men until Jim Lee came along. And that's for that reason. And that's why when he took over Fantastic Four, he got rid of the Namor Sue Reed dynamic. And, to this day, what John Byrne did with the Reed and Sue stuck, we don't
Yeah.
see, we see Namor being weird a lot of the times, like
Yes.
to this day. But we don't see Sue losing, her autonomy or losing her
Yes.
characteristics to deal with Namor, like worst case scenario, she'd be like, he's a great friend. I maybe was attracted to him and I will save him because there are some feelings, but I'll never act on them. Like that's
Yeah.
the worst you get.
And that's healthy. That's perfectly
Yeah.
fine and healthy.
Yep. And, to some extent, you always get those fun dynamics because, like, at some point you would get Sue commenting on how Reed is over jealous at times and, like,
Yeah.
how she's not gonna go anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
I remember that from Kingdom Black and Axe Judgment Day. It was the Fantastic Four tie-in. She said those, like, directly. But, Sue Storm developed a lot more than she originally did under Stan and Jack when John Byrne got rid of the love triangle.
Yeah.
You know?
And yeah, everyone was better once that love triangle disappeared. The problem is, taking this back to Cyclops, Jean, Logan, is there was a time when it looked like they were kind of moving on from it, but then I think Morrison brought it back. Maybe it was more Kusada kind of pushed it, but the fact that it was kind of brought back is kind of where all the characters, everyone involved, kind of just came off as worse.
I think that was the 90s cartoon effect. Like, that was the 90s cartoon. And the 90s cartoon later on bled into the movies, which became the bigger inspiration for the issue.
Yeah.
So, of course, we have the famous memes. Like, I'm going to be clear. I haven't watched the original show. I'm going to be clear. I watched some clips of it. Yeah, I watched some clips of it. I know the story. I have not sat down and watched it as a whole. But, since forever you get to see the meme of Wolverine sitting on his bed looking at the photo with Jean and Scott, or, them kissing in the background and him looking grumpy. Like, that's the thing that made the situation worse. And, I think it's funny. Jeremy Adams, who is a DC writer, in a way talked about this. Like, he was talking about the success of his Flash run when compared to Spider-Man and other things. And he would mention that as a child, of course, people would gravitate towards Wolverine more than Logan. And, like, I think he spoke about himself being that person, but then when he grew up a bit and started to, mature, he was like, what did I enjoy about it? Or more accurately, he would be like, I enjoy Scott and Jean. Like, I think he spoke about that when it came to the Dark Phoenix saga. He said that as a child, he read the Dark Phoenix saga and he was like, where's Wolverine? But as an adult, he was like, that's the best story ever told.
Yeah.
So that's the aspect of it that went wrong. And then, of course, came the movies. I know that you want to rant about it, and I'll let you rant about it, but I'll have to say what I want to say because it's going to be brief. And after that, I'll leave you to it. The thing about the movies is that James Marsden said it. The movies are the Hugh Jackman show.
Very true.
And so, from the beginning, we saw Jean maybe attracted to Wolverine. She didn't even say that she loved him. She didn't act on anything. Like, I watched the movies way before I got into comics, and the movies made me a fan of Jean and Scott and hated Jean and Logan. That was from the movies. It was not from the comics. I wasn't reading comics at the time.
Yeah.
And that's because I came into the movies as a teenager. I didn't watch them growing up. And I saw just a trope because everyone was focused on everything from Logan's perspective. So in the first 3 movies, Logan is horny for her, basically. He wants her. He wants to separate her and Scott. And then the Wolverine movie gets back Famke as an imagination, like Wolverine basically imagining having sex with her and everything. Yep. But when you take the Jean's perspective of it all, there was literally nothing. The first movie, she was focused on the politics of the mutants-humans relationships and being a doctor. She tried to save Wolverine as a doctor. In the second movie, she was afraid of the Phoenix, what we know as the Phoenix. Like, she felt it coming through. And then she, her dynamic with Scott was pretty much healthy. Like, there was nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Then 3 comes out. 3 makes it weird, but it's not really Jean. Like, 3 they dealt with Jean and the Phoenix as separate entities, where the Phoenix would act on all the negative impulses of Jean, and that's why you had her making out what's his name with Logan. You had her kill Scott, which is out of character no matter the universe anyway. So like that this wasn't Jean acting with Logan; it was the Phoenix. And then with Wolverine, you got the imagination, and after that. You got mentions, like I think there was a deleted scene in Logan as well as Deadpool and Wolverine where they mention Logan loving Jean, but there wasn't anything from Jean's perspective. And the reason why Jean suffers is that no one other than Hugh Jackman and maybe Professor X and Magneto, throughout the Fox universe as a whole, the original movies and the prequels, got the correct the correct adaptation. Everyone was just there while you witnessed Professor X, Magneto, and Wolverine get to play around and evolve. And that's the issue that X-Men 97 avoided. And that's why people, when they saw 97, they were like, wow, Cyclops is actually cool. What's happening here? It was because,
that first episode,
Yep. Wow. Jean is a complicated character. She is similar to Sue Storm. She has a family that to care about. She has a love life. She has friends. She's not, she's not a...
Yeah. She could be a tough mom, too.
Yes, she is not just an object that, Wolverine wants to penetrate when he's horny.
Yeah.
And, that's for me the issue. I know that you have been repressing this for as long as I've known you. Like, I've been on a couple of your streams and you wanted to say a lot about that and you never said it. And now explode. I want to hear you.
Okay, let me just start off by saying the Fox movies got Wolverine completely wrong. They got Jean Grey. They messed her up completely. They wasted Famke Jenssen's acting talents. I mean, when I saw her in GoldenEye, I thought, yeah, Famke can definitely act. And if you turn her into what is basically a spectator, that was bad enough. But what makes the Fox movie so egregious in my mind, what they did with, not just with this dumb love triangle, they actually found a way to make it even worse than what the comics did. Even at the absolute worst, at the very least, the comics did establish some dynamic. The comics did at least make clear that, Wolverine he's an ass, but at least he does care. I mean, he cares about the other X-Men. He cares about the team. He even cares about Cyclops in his own Wolverine-like way. But the movies made it so much worse by essentially removing all the redeeming qualities of Wolverine. I mean, if he was played by someone other than Hugh Jackman, people would hate him. Because you just have to forget for a moment that he's being played by Hugh Jackman. Forget for a moment that that Hugh Jackman is such a nice guy off screen. Just look at what he does in these Fox movies. Like, he shows up, the X-Men, Cyclops helps save him from Sabretooth, doesn't ask for anything, doesn't know him. And when he wakes up in the mansion, his first instinct is to be dismissive, to be an asshole. Even when Cyclops meets him, Cyclops, hey, I saved you from Sabretooth. Here, shake my hand. He didn't. He was just a complete ass in that moment. And he doesn't know Cyclops like he does in the comics. In the comics, at the very least, they've worked together. They've gone on missions together. They've fought Sentinels together. They've saved the world together. Yeah, they don't like each other, but they respect each other. And also, same thing with Jean. Even though she did leave in the classic X-Men, she at the very least knows him. And she knows Logan. He knows her. They actually do interact. They know each other enough to understand each other. But in the Fox movies, I swear, I point this out many, many times, he doesn't frickin' know her at all. At all. I mean, he didn't get a chance to live with her. Didn't get a chance to be on a team with her for more than, I think, other than X1 and X2. Didn't get a chance to learn about her. I mean, there's no indication that they ever interact with each other outside of the events of the first movie and the events of the second movie. Remember, because Logan, he left after the first movie, as he is wont to do. So how are we supposed to believe that he actually cares about her? And how are we supposed to believe that she gives a damn about him? I mean, for all she knows, this guy, he came, he stayed a few days, he left, he flirted with her. She didn't respond. she says, "Hey, I'm engaged." And we're supposed to buy that that there's actually some real depth here. I mean, help me make sense of it, really, because again, I've written bad fan fiction. I've written terrible things. I've done bad writing before. Even my worst writing was not as bad as what happened with these Fox movies, because if you just look at what Wolverine does, not just with respect to, Jean, but overall, I mean, he is an asshole. You mentioned that movie made me, just the premise alone of that movie made me upset, because it says, wait a minute, are you telling me that after Charles Xavier dies, after Cyclops dies, after Jean Grey dies, he leaves the X-Men? Are you kidding me? That's like the exact freaking opposite of what Wolverine does in the comics. It's the exact opposite of what you would expect someone with any redeeming qualities to do. I mean, he's like, oh, but yeah, these people died, so I'm just going to leave all over a woman I barely freaking knew. And it was so annoying. I mean, it'd be one thing if he was just, if the movie showed him, look, I need some time away from the X-Men. But no, it says he ditched them. He ditches the X-Men and all over a woman he barely knew. I mean, how are we supposed to buy that? How are we supposed to make sense of that? Because all that did is it either made Wolverine out to be just creepy. Like, why are you so obsessed with a woman you barely know? I mean, you haven't lived with her. You don't know how she takes her coffee. Does he even know her middle name? It's Elaine, by the way, Jean Elaine Grey. The fact that he just did not, that they want us to believe that, hey, this is the main romance, but wait, he doesn't know her at all.
Yep.
How are we supposed to buy that? And
Yep.
all the while, Cyclops, the person who, again, he did not do what did he do to make Wolverine hate him so much? Other than the egregious sin of being engaged to a woman that he actually lives with and knows because they've been together for so long. So, like, what did he do to warrant being such an ass to him? I mean, remember, the first movie, he steals Cyclops' motorcycle. Second movie, steals his car. And why? What did he do to deserve any of this? I mean, I don't care. Remove his name. His name, Cyclops. What would you think of him, of anyone for someone who, by the way, saved you from an attacker? What would you do if you rewarded him by saying, oh, I'm going to steal your bike and wreck it, steal your car and mock you, I keep flirting with your girl even after you tell me not to? And like, it's one of those things where every time I try to rewatch the Fox movies, I'm like, I hate this Wolverine. Real, I mean, even the Ultimate Wolverine version of Wolverine was at least fun at times, but this guy has no redeeming values. I don't understand why we're supposed to buy this. The fact that I know there's a sub story about why James Marsden got written out of X3. It's because he went to do Superman, but
yeah, along with Bryan Singer, who also didn't return to do X.
Yeah, and it was, but the fact that they were so callous with how they say, hey, it's Cyclops, he doesn't matter. Are you freaking kidding? After what you did, forget for the fact that he's Cyclops. Just look at what, you want us to root against this character who Wolverine has done nothing, he's just been an asshole to for the entire trilogy. You want us to root against that guy and for the guy who is just being a dick. And beyond just being a dick, at the very least, in the comics and even in the Ultimate Universe to some limited extent, Wolverine did have some semblance of honor, especially when dealing with Jean. Did not have any of that in the Fox movies. He was just a dick. And he's like the last person I think should have got any attention from any female in that entire series, because just what he does, the way he carries himself, the fact that the people like he berates don't do anything to deserve it. I mean, the only character he really didn't, he didn't really clash with too much was Storm, which we could talk about that another time. But yeah, there's a lot more I can say, but just with each passing year, I mean, even when I was a teenager, when I was watching these X-Men movies, I'm thinking, yeah, this Wolverine doesn't feel like the Wolverine from the cartoon or the comics. At least in the cartoon, I could get it because he'd known Jean a long time. He knew her well enough to know why he was attracted to her. She knew him long enough to know, hey, I care about this guy. There's none of that in the Fox movies. It's like, you wouldn't have even had to work that hard. I mean, you could have just said they had kept in contact, or you could have had some kind of time skip. They literally made no effort whatsoever to make those to make those to make this dynamic anything other than just toxic, creepy. Because that is the one thing that I can't get around of just how creepy and insincere it is. Because again, what would you say to someone who was super obsessed with a woman he barely knew for more than a few days? That cannot be. Not only is he creepy, the fact that he doesn't seem to go out of his way to get to know her, doesn't go out of his way to learn about her. The only extent of his attraction to her is that I think I remember it was Bobby or it was Iceman or Pyro. I don't remember who. Just says, "I see the way you look at Dr. Gray." It's like, that's all you're doing. You just look at her like, oh, God, I want to, yeah, because she looks like Famke Janssen. But I just that can't be, if that's the extent of their connection, it's really, really terrible. And
Yep.
I just can't. I've tried to wrap my head around it. Every time I've tried to rewatch these movies, I'm like, is there any way for this to make sense? But just with each passing year, I hate it more and more. And I can't, for the life of me, understand why, why it's endearing or anything, because it just, help me make sense of it. You're smarter than me. Help me
Sure.
make sense, man.
No, not. I think that, for me, that Wolverine being an asshole when he doesn't know people and he's a loner who doesn't remember anything, for me, that's accurate. I don't have any issues with it. And I don't
That's
have
one
any
thing.
issues with him, having an attraction towards Jean and wanting Jean because, at this point, yes, he is that type of asshole who doesn't care about anything. He wants the girl, he wants the car, he wants everything, and he will take it. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with that, especially because, you're coming to the movie as a person who knows Logan and Scott really well, who has watched the animated series, read the comics, and that stuff. But in this universe, we are not dealing with established teams. We are dealing with, the newcomer. And Wolverine early on was a creep. I think it was issue 100 or 101 when Jean had to scold Logan because he was being a creep.
Yeah.
So, like,
But,
yeah,
oh yeah, I was just going to say, uh, the thing is, even though Gina's always been good at not scolding people, because unless someone's thoughts are really, really depraved or dark, she will tolerate it. Because I'm pretty sure, like, I remember there's this one episode, one comic where I think it was The Onslaught, where she knows the thoughts that some men think about her when she walks by.
yep,
But she goes, they're just thoughts. She's learned to filter it out.
yeah. And,
Same with
yeah,
Logan.
yes, but he
The
did
thing
reach the
is,
limit in which, like, she
yeah.
had to scold him. And she had, as we mentioned later on, she had to beat him a couple of times.
Yeah, because he was willing to cross those lines. And one of the things about the Fox movies that I didn't like is, they didn't really let Jean do what she did in the comics. They didn't let her scold him. It was always very
Yep,
haphazard,
yes,
because
because it
that's
was
just
the
not how
trope.
Jean is. Yeah. And
Because
it's
that
a
was the
terrible
trope.
trope too. Yeah.
Yes, even let's take it to the Wolverine. We didn't have
Yeah.
really Jean, we have Mariko. And Mariko is
Yeah.
in the comics, she is probably Logan's best love interest. And
Probably. Yeah.
even she was treated the same way because if you remember, she had a fiance and she had to sleep with
Yeah.
Logan
Yeah.
when she
Yeah, I
was
remember.
engaged. So it was the same
Yeah.
trope, but it
Yeah.
passed because it was Mariko and the movie in general was bad, but whatever.
Yeah.
The thing, like, I can pass Logan being a dick, and him
Yeah.
and Scott not going along and all of that. And I can
Yeah.
pass him leaving the X-Men at the end of the movie because he's not connected to them on any level. Like,
Yeah.
the
Not
movie
yet.
contradicts itself in this aspect. He should leave the X-Men because he's not connected to them, but at the same time, he doesn't love this woman and he doesn't care about Scott. And, that's where the movie contradicts itself. And, around that
Yeah.
time, it was definitely like that was the time that Hollywood was definitely making movies that were like, don't think about it too much, just enjoy the show and eat some popcorn. Because like, at the same time they had the XXX movies, the Vin Diesel ones. We had Fast and
Vin Diesel.
Furious.
Yeah.
Like that was yeah. We had those movies, and they were pretty much the same thing. And at the same time in the comics, we had the complicated, like we had the rage bait of it all. Like in 1999, Alan Davis was writing X-Men. He was the one that did the 12 and all of these stories.
Yeah.
In one of the stories, I believe it was Astonishing X-Men, he was tasked by Marvel to have a cover on which Jean and Logan are kissing. And he was like, why? What does this serve the story? There is nothing like that at all in the story. And they were like, no, but I'm paraphrasing here, but basically they were gonna rage bait fans to buy it.
Yeah.
And he was like, that's totally wrong. But you know what? If you want to truly rage bait them, take this cover and use it. And he drew Jean kissing Rogue, which of course, it's the early 2000s. It was the early 2000s. Marvel never used that cover, but you can find it online if you Google it. And I'll try to put it here somewhere. So we have that. And, I think, ironically, I mapped out the 616 Logan and Jean interactions, or more accurately, the kissing, because, a lot of people think that they cheat a lot and whatnot. Ironically, it's not that many, and most of them are forced by one of the two people. Like, the first four are Uncanny 242, which is Inferno. We talked about when Jean hit him. Extension Agenda, particularly X-Factor 61.
Yeah, they were in
which
prison at that point.
Yes, they were in prison, and Jean was checking if he was breathing or not, and he laid a kiss on her, but he was not defensive, and she was struggling at the point.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? So
I can hear
you. Yeah, it was a weird time, but whatever happened, it passed. And then, nothing happens until the 2000s. Here we got the synergy with the movies as well as the rage bait of it all. We got the Alan Davis situation, and we got, what's his name? Ian Churchill and Joe Casey's run on X-Men.
Yeah.
What happened here, and Joe Casey and Ian Churchill were great to talk about that stuff with part of X-Men not that long ago. They said that they were basically tasked with the same idea, the rage bait cover. And they were weird about it, in the right ways, because, comic book fans are horny. Let's be real.
Yeah.
There's a reason why Jim Lee is the successful artist he is. So the idea behind it was that have Jean kiss Logan, and they would draw Logan's hand looking like an erected penis, and that's why his hand is so long, and then the claws are way too long, because it was they intended it to look like an erected penis. It's more of a rage baiting. They knew at the time that this was gonna.
At least they had fun with
at the time, the movies were hot.
Yeah.
Speaking of that issue, it was 394, in which both of them were trapped and were about to die, and Logan forced the kiss on Jean.
Yes.
But Jean didn't get to react, because at the moment they almost thought that they were dead. They blinked, and then when Jean woke up, she forgot everything that happened for whatever reason. And then you got to a new X-Men number 117, in which Jean and this was the first time ever in which Jean kisses Logan.
Yeah.
We're talking about 2001.
Yeah.
And at that moment, it was also forced. She forced the kiss on him, and he this is the Logan I like a lot. He's the Logan that he's mature. He knows what he wants to do. Yes. And he was like, this is not you. You're not in your right mind. You have your marriage issues these days. Go deal with them. And he was trying to be helpful to her and Scott for a long time, which is funny enough. This came out around the time X-Men 394 came out. And they have totally different dynamics. You have the same three characters and totally different dynamics, because 394 had Jean and Scott having their marriage issues, and Wolverine was creepy about it.
Yeah.
And that's why he laid a kiss on her, where in Morrison's run, he was like, you can go, guys worked on this, you can make it work, And he wasn't the only one, these two, but Logan was kind of the weird person there. And I think that Logan was probably one of the few characters that grow a lot in the Morrison era. Naturally, too.
I agree.
He wasn't forced.
Way more than he did with the Fox movies. He didn't grow at all, the Fox movies.
And then after that, we get 3 kisses in the weirdest era of it all.
Yeah, the Krakoa
We got
era.
the throuple. Yep.
Okay.
So
can I go? Can I say a few
Sure.
things about the throuple before we continue? Now, let me just say this for the record. I hate the love triangles. I think the best thing that Marvel could have done is to just ignore it. But at the same time, I'll go on record as saying I was kind of on board with the throuple when it started, because the way that it was set up, the way that it kind of was framed alongside Krakoa was, look, this is a different era. This is a different society. This is a different culture now. If we're all these conflicts of the past, let's not, they're not, those are human conflicts. We're moving forward. And for this, for, I guess, for as part of that, we're not going to really pay much attention to these old dynamics of, these two are a couple. There's this person here is kind of has a connection with this person. Let's just go. Let's just embrace all the weird emotions because they've always had that. So I thought the way it was set up that, hey, Wolverine, he's been a part of their lives for a long time. Let's just set something up and let's just let the fans fill in the blanks because the fans have dirty minds. Let's just be extra vague about it. And I think that was the right way to do it. Like, don't do anything. Don't say outright, oh, by the way, they're in a throuple. Just say, we're not going to say that there's a love triangle. We're not going to say that they're in open relationships or anything. We're not going to do any of that. We're just going to make it a possibility. I think I liked that element. I liked the idea of saying, we're not going to make it be overt about it. We're just going to say, hey, this is the situation. We're not going to give details, but use your imagination. And I liked that. I think it's the only outcome of this love triangle in which nobody loses. Everybody gets something out of it. And it could have, I really do wish they would have actually done something with it and not just forgotten it. I know Tom Brevoort has said it didn't happen. I don't believe him. But I just want to put that out there. That I thought I was pro the Krakoa. Some people call it like polyamory. I call it Krakoan love nest or something like that. I think that would have. I don't know if you want to call it that, but I think the way they handled that situation was unique and it was oddly fun. Just to speculate, but that's just me.
I think that for me, I definitely know the ideas behind it because Jonathan Hickman talked about it. Jonathan Hickman is not the type of guy that, turns things 180 degrees. Like he doesn't want to alter the sandbox.
Yeah.
So what happens is that he comes in with an interesting idea and he explores it and he undoes it when he's moving on. Now, we've seen this with Fantastic Four, Avengers, and so on.
Yeah.
So what happened here is that Hickman hates shipping war and he hates death stories. Like a lot of his plots and House and Powers are him trying to make this new era in which that they will not use the classic comics tropes, and that backfired. Like he talked about regretting making the resurrection protocols and the Omega list as well as the love triangles. Because the way he wanted it to go is that he doesn't want shipping wars. He doesn't want anyone to do death plots.
I totally respect that.
Yes, and he didn't want to do plots about who is more overpowered and whatnot, as we talked about earlier in the stream. And writers, of course, didn't take the memo or like they just ignored it. And some more than others, because, they were not supposed to reveal anything about the poly. Like they were supposed to say, there are a lot of poly people on the island or whatnot, but they were not supposed to reveal who is or what's happening. They were maybe being cheeky about it. And, for the most part, that worked.
I
and,
agree.
after that, they easily undone everything except one thing, which is these three people. Because, at the same time, they joked, like, I remember them joking about Jamie Braddock being into Megan Braddock, There was, yes, there was the Nightcrawler being into her. There was the Batsy being like. There were a lot of people being into that to being a thing, but it never went anywhere. And the thing is that Marvel introduced this plot, and they didn't know how to handle it or how to get out of. Because immediately after it, Ben Percy went out of his way to reveal that Scott and Jean and Logan are actually fucking. So Jonathan Hickman didn't want people to explore these plots that, we have explored to death with X-Men, death, shipping wars, everything else. So he made it to be cheeky, and he didn't want to reveal anything. Like he talks on Cerebro that there were no plans to reveal if anyone is doing anything with anyone, actually, except for the people that, are married. So Scott and Jean, Rogan Gambit, these relationships. So what happened after that, Ben Percy went out of his way to reveal that Jean and Logan are actually fucking, which didn't go well with people in the office or people after it. No, because I'll come back to that. There's something I know behind the scenes from Geekville, which is funny. They also tried to explore it with Cable, Kid Omega, and the Cuckoos, but
Yes, I remember that.
yeah, because they didn't know what to do with it, they just let it slip away. So at some point, Sophie started to be with Quentin and no one else, while Esme started dating Cable. Like, they went away with it. With Jean and Logan, they also tried to keep away because, as I said, they only had 3 interactions in Krakoa in which they were romantic. X-Force 10, X-Force
Yeah.
19, and X-Lives with Wolverine #5.
Yep,
And there
I
were
remember those.
a couple of instances that were also weird. Like you had X-Men 7 where Scott and Logan were talking about who's hotter in a speedo or a bikini. Like that.
I love that scene.
Yep.
That's so funny.
So, like, there were hints, but there were, like, the problem was that they confirmed it and they shouldn't have. Because, after the Krakoan era was said and done, or even in the middle of it, once they wanted Emma out of the situation, they were like, Emma was never in the situation in the first place. And we're dealing with that. We dealt with that when she married Tony Stark. And now, no one is talking about undo how Scott, Jean, and Emma had a threesome earlier.
Or anything like
but
that.
they're talking about Jean and Logan because it was messy. And, the X office was definitely, like, they definitely didn't know what to do because the funny thing in X-19, that was the arc Kid Omega and Jean were dealing with his powers and what's happening on Krakoa. So it starts with Jean kissing Logan and Scott being weird about, like, Scott, the scene plays intensely weird as if, like, Scott is seeing them cheat on him or whatever, and he's like, what's happening here? But then later on in issue 19, you have a panel in which Jean talks about how it's hurtful and that, and, it's truly hurtful to see someone you love in the mind of someone else, or being intimate with someone else. That issue for me, like, represents the issues with this narrative. Like, you didn't have a narrative to do. Like, I'm not a fan of these trouble myself or anything, but even if they were gonna go into that direction, I would want to explore it the right way. Like, I want to see you have a plan in mind, which you didn't.
Yes,
because,
they didn't have a plan.
This
They clearly
issue represents
didn't.
that. You just want to make a joke about it.
Yeah, they could have. Yeah, that's
then
the thing.
You have to undo.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you keep mentioning how they didn't really know they didn't really seem to have a plan for it all. That does seem to be a recurring problem where they have a good idea, but they don't know what to do with it, and they're almost like afraid to follow through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that one of the ideas that were introduced early on and they kept hinting at but never went anywhere is that Krakoa is manipulating people to some extent. We know that they wanted Krakoa, Doug, and Warlock to be the villains of the era to some extent.
Yeah.
And, in X-Men 3, there was a data page saying that Krakoa is being monitored psychically because, he's connected to everyone psychically on Krakoa. So maybe he's manipulating them and whatnot, which didn't go anywhere. And in Cy Spurrier's X Nightcrawler series, I think it was Legion of X, they hint at that again. And even in Marauders by Steve Orlando, they show Okara, who was, the original island that turned into Krakoa. They show him 2 billion years ago being the leader of this cult who they are all in an orgy. They all raise the kids together. They don't know who are the parents of the kids or anything. They just, they're just horny people.
Yeah.
There was an idea there that is interesting. And, even if you go further into it, saying that everyone is literally, like, seeing everyone on panel having sex together, you could have undone it easily.
Yeah.
And you kept hinting on it, at it, but you never did anything with it. And, the funny interaction I was going to mention, so around 2021, the Hellfire Gala, my friends at Geekable had Jordan White on the show. And this didn't come out in the episode. They edited that out. They kept pressuring Jordan White to talk about the ideas that they want to explore with that concept. And the more they pushed, because they wanted really to understand what are the ideas behind it and whatnot, the more they pushed, the more Jordan White became annoyed. And, as far as I know, the interview didn't end well. Like, it aired, it was good, but...
Sounds about right.
Yeah, Jordan White was totally not a fan of being pressured because, most of the interviews Jordan gets, or anyone at Marvel and DC gets, they get scripts of it weeks earlier. They answer what they want to answer and don't answer what they don't want to answer. So when he was on the spot being asked the question that, a lot of fans were asking, and, not being really cheeky about it, or, oh, it's cool to see characters having threesomes and whatnot. He was not a fan of that, and he left annoyed.
Yeah.
And that's showcasing something like this guy didn't know what he was gonna do. And the more he talked, even in the interviews, the scripted interviews with AIPT, especially at the end of the Krakoa era, when he reveals a lot about it, that he didn't know what to do from the beginning. He was just, okay, let's see how it goes, let people do what they want to do, and not everything worked well.
Yeah.
So then we get to Tom Brevoort, who definitely should undo this stuff, and he wants to undo it, but he never goes out of his way to undo it.
He's never actively done it.
Yes, we talked about it. He's just doing everything out of spite, and he's not actually doing things for the stories.
Yeah. He's kind of
We literally
have you ever heard of that saying, let's not and say we did? That's kind of Tom Brevoort's approach, apparently. Let's not and say we did.
I think it's funny because he used Wolverine 400, obviously the biggest Wolverine issue that came out in a while. It's issue 400. And he used Logan. He had Logan talk about Jean and saying that we have been friends and we haven't been anything other than friends for a very, very long time.
Yeah, I remember that issue.
Yeah, it's like this is his way of undoing what we have seen on panel, which is fucking weird. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if you want to do it, just do it. And I encourage you to do it because, the thing about it is that sooner or later you'll have to do it because the characters are in X-Men 97. They are in the MCU. They are gonna be controlled by factors that are way above Tom Brevoort and his spite for other people.
Yeah, I agree. And
being a Jordan White, Ben Percy, or whoever.
The thing is, I think Ben Percy, he has said he is kind of a Jean Logan shipper, but not to the point where he doesn't use that as a way to knock on Cyclops or anything. Not the way Claremont does it. He's a little more. He does seem to embrace the idea that Jean is a big part of Wolverine's life, and she's probably one of the few people he would ever trust to be in his to get in his mind. That's kind of like the extent of their relationship, because at the same time, Percy also had Logan hook up with other women. Like, I think he hooked up with some surfer chick in the Krakoa era as well.
Storm, and he was setting up him with another vampire, which I think Tom Waltz paid that through.
Yeah, so it's true.
Bloodhunt.
So it's kind of like he kind of understood the limits of their relationship. And it's not one of those relationships that's going to be romantic in the same way that Cyclops and Jean were, or even Tony and Emma Frost. So, but he knew where the limit was, and that's probably the best thing I could say about Percy's take on Wolverine and Jean. And again, I'm sorry to bring this back to the Fox movies.
Sure,
I know I've already gone on my rant.
But no,
the thing is, they had at least with Percy, he understood this is the limits of their relationship. The Fox movies basically said, yeah, we're not even going to bother. That's too much work. We're not even going to try to establish a dynamic between these two characters. Look, it's Hugh Jackman, it's Famke Janssen. It's too much work. And it's lazy. It's just freaking lazy. You have all these resources, and if you're going to be that freaking lazy, you should be in that business.
Yeah. I think that the thing about Percy is that it's not about him being a shipper. He is a shipper, but the thing is that Ben Percy is the guy who loves the old cold guy trope.
Yeah.
That's why he writes Ghost Rider, he writes Punisher, he writes Logan. There are he writes basically the characters, the edgy characters. So when he writes them well. Like, I love his era on Wolverine and X-Force. I don't like Jean and them. I just hate Jean and them. She is not my, she is cool, she's powerful, but she is not the Jean I know. And that's where the line is weird. And, it's kind of funny because X-Force and Wolverine were at the top of their game until X-Force number 10. Like, that when people started to lose interest. And, I was an advocate for the runs when they were coming out because I read them in trades. I was doing a project on Instagram way back when the Krakoa era was happening. I was like reading the trades and reviewing them, and I enjoyed them as trades. I hated X-Force and Wolverine as issues. I loved them as trades, and they're written as omnis. I'm sorry, like they're not even written as trades. They're written to be omnis, and
that's fair.
Yeah, I think that Ben Percy was definitely the main guy with the issue because, as I said, Duggan was playing with Emma and Scott, but
Yeah.
he didn't reveal anything. And Leah Williams wasn't part of X-Men as well, and she said that they were not supposed to reveal anything, but then
Yes.
Ben Percy revealed it anyway, which I'm sorry, but this represents poor editorial.
Yeah,
if
they
the
weren't
writer
on the
does
same
something,
page.
if the writer does something that the editor doesn't want to do on, then I'm sorry,
That's a problem.
very weak. You're a weak editor. And for a long time, that was Jordan White's problem.
Yeah.
That's why his era didn't last too long.
And how long do you think Tom Brevoort's going to last?
Longer. Sadly, longer. The thing is that Tom Brevoort is the Marvel guy. And if you leave him to his devices, he's gonna act like Casara. He's gonna end Jean and Scott's marriage and a lot of other things. But he's a Marvel guy, and he was put in his position by someone in the Marvel, in the Disney office. The reason why Krakoa was rushed and Jordan was replaced was because of X-Men 97 coming out and Disney saying, no, we want to change directions to a more familiar direction, 90s and 80s direction.
And yeah, it shows.
Yes. And so Tom Brevoort is gonna last longer. I think that he is not really running the show, or rather he's doing stuff out of spite, but he's also controlled by higher ups. Like when higher ups tell him not to do something, he's not gonna do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the issue when it comes to Gene. It's not because he doesn't want to undo it or anything. It's just that higher ups don't want to acknowledge that at the moment. It took them a long time to acknowledge Sins Past in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
They never acknowledge Avengers 200. To them, the best way to retcon that stuff is just to not acknowledge it, which is the wrong way to do it. You have to retcon it. Like Sins Past was brought up a lot until Nick Spencer retconned it.
Yeah.
So it's just the Marvel way of doing things.
Better late than never, I guess.
Yep. And, let's see how it goes. I think that we've talked about the plans for Jean were weird. She was supposed to be an Imperial, but then there were weird Imperial shenanigans happening to the point that the entire run is canceled now. So, I'm interested to see how things go because, if Jean is in Spider-Man A Brand New Day, which more and more hints at that exist now. I think Sadie Sink is rumored to have signed 5 movies deal with Marvel at this point. Yeah. So if she's gonna be in Brand New Day, you can bet that she's gonna be present in the comics in some form.
Yeah.
Hopefully back in McKay's X-Men, because McKay is one of the writers that handles overpowered characters well.
I agree.
And he handled Jean well. Like he wrote Doctor Strange for a long time. He wrote Moon Knight for a long time, and made Moon Knight way overpowered, but in a way that works. And he wrote Jean well for a few issues in Doctor Strange. So I hope that he gets her in his run. And, that's my thought of it. But, it's kind of funny to look at it like how Rage Bait always existed in Marvel and how when it came to Jean and Logan, it's been a driving force for a long time.
Yeah.
Like they had the Ian Churchill cover, the Alan Davis cover. They had the Morrison era. Like they were hammering it. And even later, like they hammered it really weirdly. But, the more I think about it, the more I hate the trouble because it definitely didn't make sense for the characters. Like they were definitely manipulated to some extent, The guys that fought because of Jean when Jean was dead, like in Astonishing X-Men, in Schism, even in the Brian Michael Bendis era during Battle of the Atom when Zone returned and Logan was like, be careful, beware of Zone, Scott, she is not our Jean. And he was like, she is never your Jean, or she was never your Jean. Like, I'm sorry, but these guys are not the type of guys who have threesomes in the same bedroom.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. And, I'm excited to see where things go. Ironically, I think there are characters in the Marvel Universe that fit this description. Cable is one of them. I think Cable is definitely one of them because we've seen Cable married to different people at the same time. Of course, it's related to him being the time traveler, but we've seen it happen, The implication of the Jerry Duggan run is that Cable married Esme as well as Alia Jan Scott, as well as Hope, not his daughter, his wife. at the same time. Like he was married to Esme throughout the marriages, the three other marriages. So Cable is one of them. They did it with Star-Lord. I think at the time Marvel was loving the rage bait articles that came out of the Krakoa era, so they were like, let's do it to Star-Lord as well. And I think, Star-Lord fits unlike the others, especially because they like to make it with Star-Lord, they introduced new characters, a new married couple who were like interested in Star-Lord, and he was like, yes, so what, let's do it. Like it didn't work. It didn't work well later on when they tried to make it with Gamora and Nova.
Yeah.
Especially because so far we don't have confirmation that Nova is bi or anything. But it worked for for him with his couple, the other couple.
It can work. That's the thing. It's like it kind of comes back to what I said with going back to the thruple area or the Krakoa. They didn't really lean into it. They didn't have a vision for it. They didn't seem to want to go the whole. It's like once the story got going, they said, "Oh, we got to pull back. We got to pull back. Don't let it play out." It's like they didn't. I didn't let Hickman cook, so to speak. One of the things that looking at the comics now, I saw the same news you did about Sadie Sink as Jean. The fact that if she's going to have like a 5-picture deal, she's not playing some one-off character like Shartha. You don't sign her for 5 There's no way Shartha's that.
She's Firestar. Yeah, if she's not Jean, she's Firestar Rachel. Like she's someone staying around.
And but with Jean, Sadie playing Jean would definitely raise her profile because the Stranger Things crowd is still that's still a big fandom. Sadie is a rising star in a lot of other films. I think what Marvel is doing right now is they're going to wait for late July for when the movie does come out, and I guess they're going to hope that once she comes, Sadie, if she is Jean, she steals the show, and I think she will, and then that'll be their time to bring Jean back into the comics in some way. We don't know how. We know she's alive. She was in the annual. It's just a matter of what role could she have. I hope it's with Jed. I don't think it's going to be with Gale and Uncanny. I don't think she would fit into a book like that. But I think she would definitely fit into it's an X-book of some kind. And I think she will definitely, her star will rise thanks to Sadie Sink.
Hopefully. I think I'm looking at everything I want to say or everything I want to talk about. And I think that I want to take this discussion to the last point, which is alternate universes. Because I think people discuss alternate universes a lot. And, alternate universes are not meant to be taken that seriously. Like, we have universes in which Wolverine is gay or Wolverine is dating Sue Storm. So they are not meant to be taken seriously. Of course, some of the, because, that's Marvel's biggest love triangle. Everyone was going to talk about it, whether it's going to happen in the Age of Apocalypse or if it's going to be in Spider-Man Renew Your Vows. People are going to talk about it more. But I don't think that these matter. And you know what? I think I'm going to sound weird saying this. I think that Jean and Logan work well in the Age of Apocalypse.
I agree.
Because there is no Scott involved.
Yeah, no baggage.
There was no first baggage from Claremont. Like, it started as them alone. There is no Scott. There is no Claremont, I hate Scott. There is nothing.
Yeah.
It was just them. And they progressed naturally. And even then, Larry Hama made the point that Jean doesn't really love Logan the way that she wants to be with him. Like, she married him. But once Scott showed up, it was like, she's not sure if she's good with this marriage.
Yeah.
And of course, later on, whenever the Age of Apocalypse returned, the continuity shifted. Like, you have a lot of that characters suddenly alive and a lot of things don't make sense. And at some point, they did add the whole triangle with Scott and Logan. I think it was around 2015 with the Secret Wars.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, so since then, it's been weird. But when talking about the original story, I think I enjoy that story. I don't enjoy it in Renewal Vows, by the Spider-Man story, because Renewal Vows was some sort of like, this is the main continuity, but some things happened differently, especially around the 80s and 90s. So after, Jean and Scott drifted away because of the Civil War. I'm like, this is as bad as Claremont. Yeah, like this was as bad as Claremont's writing. So I didn't enjoy that. Of course, Forever, X-Men Forever.
We talked about
Like,
that, yeah, but we talked
yep,
about that in another
nope.
stream.
So, and I think to a lesser I didn't enjoy it in X-Men the end, but to a lesser extent, it was like, okay, Jean and Scott are acting weird. They don't get, they are not themselves. And the end of the X-Men, the end fixes that.
Yeah,
Where it's
exactly. They fixed it.
yes, it fixes it. So it's like the beginning of the story doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a progression. There was an actual plan there. That's
Yes.
that was Claremont at his best with the end. He
Yes.
understood how to progress the characters from one point to another. It's much harder to do. I think it's because he had more creative freedom with that than he did with some of his other projects.
Hmm.
That seems to be the case with Claremont. Sometimes when you give him a lot of creative freedom, he either can be really good, like he was with the end, or he could go completely off the rails like he did with X-Men Forever. There's like
Absolutely.
nothing in between.
Yeah. And then you have Christus Gage, who doesn't know what he wants to do. Like Christus Gage takes the alternate universe's perspective and plays with it in all the weird ways. Like in Weapon X-Men, you see Jean and Logan, you see Jean and Scott, you see Scott and Madeline, you see all of the different variations of the relationships throughout the multiverse. Of course, like to me, I think Christus Gage has another problem, not related to Jean and Logan. It's related to wanting to alter the continuities of established stories. Like at the end of Weapon X-Men, he had changed the status of Wolverine in the Earth X book, which for
Yeah, I
me
remember that.
was yeah, you shouldn't have
That
done
was
that,
weird. That
And
was messed up.
he did a similar thing in Battleworld where he tried to like change something about Days of Future Past.
Yeah.
So like to me that's like don't touch these like not because of anything, but no one will remember that you tweaked these stories. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I love Christus Gage, but no one will remember that because these stories exist in their pockets and everyone wants to go back to them, not the way they're written now, but how they were written originally. Similar to the Age of Apocalypse, by the way. Like a lot of people hate all of the returns to the Age of Apocalypse. They just loved the original story. I think that I do too, but Rick Remender returned to it and made it interesting. So I also love the Remender era, but it's different. Yeah. And Remender changed a lot about continuity to the point that you can say that the Age of Apocalypse we deal with in the Remender run is not the original Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
It's another reality that's similar.
Yeah. That was also when Wolverine was with Melita Gardner. Remember that? Remember her? Yeah. Was that
that
yeah.
was weird.
Yeah. So yeah, I know what you mean when it comes to alternate universes, but I will say, yeah, I will agree with you that Age of Apocalypse that handled Jean and Logan fairly well because they didn't go with the love triangle because again, they follow a different path. She didn't Jean never met Cyclops early on, and Logan never had a chance to clash with him. So it was never a situation where you have this one character has to be like a whipping boy or some sort of sacrificial lamb in order to make this work, which is stupid because if this is just general writing. If a character needs to be sacrificed for a couple, that's not a healthy couple.
Yes, absolutely.
And that has always been my big problem with love triangles, especially with Jean, Logan, and Cyclops. The only time when Jean and Logan work is when they are allowed to connect without Cyclops being in the picture at all.
Which is only the Age of Apocalypse, by the way. There is no media or any alternate universe in which Cyclops is not a part of the issue or part of the triangle.
Exactly. And that's a better way to do it. And it's sad that like it seems every writer who wants to poke this bear, so to speak, they can't seem to figure out a way other than maybe the thruple approach to someone has to suffer, someone has to be broken. That's why I think the best thing X-Men 97 did was have Logan flat out say, yeah, no, not doing this. This isn't good for anyone in the long run.
They did the Morrison bit.
Yeah, but the reason I say X-Men 97 did it better was because
absolutely
they took the Emma factor out of it.
Yes.
I think by not bringing Emma into the picture with X-Men 97 the way they did in Morrison's run, they resolved the love triangle as well as they probably could have.
Yep.
Maybe it's just maybe it's I'm hoping for too much, but I would have loved it if they revisited Storm and Wolverine, because remember in the original cartoon there were in the original cartoon there's a couple of episodes where they have an Age of Apocalypse type future where Storm and Wolverine are married.
Yes.
They even cite that in one of the openings of X-Men 97. So
Yeah.
I don't know if they're ever going to revisit that, but they did hook up in the comics recently. So
And even before that, like it started in the 70s with Claremont. It went to the 90s with the cartoon, and
yeah,
then after the divorce, so with Wolverine and the X-Men,
yeah, I
and
like
it lasted
yeah,
for a long time.
yeah.
You
Until
know,
Logan died.
yes, I think, ironically, I think this is how they should have handled Scott and Jean and Logan. Like Logan is also in love with Storm.
Yeah,
He has been since the 70s, but
yeah,
she chose T'Challa. Okay, I'm gonna move on.
yeah,
That's the way to handle
yeah,
the Jean and Logan and Scott of
yeah,
it all. But they don't do that.
yeah.
And I think that there is something ironic about the Remender run handling Jean and Logan. You have Jean of the Age of
Yeah,
Apocalypse meeting Logan,
Logan. Yeah,
616 Logan. And the thing is, once they meet, they hook up. And after that, see them, they don't they say it, they don't care about each other. They just are attracted to each other.
yeah.
And in a weird, twisted way, that's kind of meta about the whole situation. Like they're
Sounds about
attracted to
right.
each other.
Yeah,
They care about each other, but they don't love each other. They love each other, just not romantically.
yeah. That's perfectly
You know,
reasonable.
yeah.
Yeah,
And when they are free, just as they were in the Remender run, they can hook up. One night stands, a couple of nights. Maybe friends with benefits.
yeah.
Okay, nothing wrong with it.
Yeah, they could have, but the thing is, they don't seem to want to put in the actual work of dealing with these messy dynamics because that takes away from the action, I guess. But the X-Men have always been at their best when they kind of lean into the soap
Soap
opera element.
opera.
Yeah, that's what
Yep.
Chris Claremont did so well. And I think moving forward, even though they kind of they've taken a step back from the old love triangle, if they ever want to actually, they shouldn't just run from it. They should actually say, oh, this is what happened on Krakoa. This is what happened after Krakoa. Let's actually, lay the cards on the table and say, hey, this was the dynamic. This is what it was. This is what it is now. This is why it changed. And this is what it is now. Don't leave everything so ambiguous. Otherwise, fans are going to try to fill in the blanks. And I know,
It's not good when they do that.
yeah, because trust me, again, I wrote fan fiction. Some of it is pretty bad.
Yep.
But yeah,
Yes,
just one more point on that.
sure.
Not this doesn't just apply to Jean Logan and Cyclops. I mean, I could say the same thing about Spider-Man and Mary Jane. You could say the same thing about Daredevil and Elektra and Karen Page. The thing is, there's a right way when it comes to writing these soap opera elements. You can't just leave it you can't leave it overly vague, and that's what they tried to do with Krakoa. They've kind of left it like that now between what's happening with Storm and the fact that she hooked up with Logan again, and it's just it kind of gives the impression that they're almost too scared to make something of the soap opera. They just want to say, oh, let's just drop teases here and there without a plan. A plan and a vision would actually is overdue. That's
Yes.
all I'll say.
And Hickman said that when he was talking about the shipping wars. He said that the office was afraid. He went to the office having two options. One, a list similar to the Omega list, which is shipping list. These couples are together and that's it, or everyone is making out with
Fucking
one
everyone.
another. Yes. And
I think we know which one he chose.
yes, they didn't just choose the second. They thought that they dared Hickman to do it because they didn't want to choose the first option because they were afraid of it. They were afraid of the fan reaction.
Yeah.
And the second option, they thought that Hickman was joking.
That makes it even better.
Yes, and Jonathan said that on Cerebro. I'd advise everyone to listen to that. He was like, everyone
love
thought I
that.
was joking. I was definitely not joking. And sure enough, he wasn't.
That makes it so much better.
Yep, he makes it so much funnier. But yeah, the last thing I want to discuss briefly, because it's a spoiler for a comic that hasn't come out yet. So if anyone is not interested in Spider-Man The Spiral, I mean, I think that's your cue. Follow me and Jack.
Go ahead.
Yes, you can find, Jack's channel in the description below. And hopefully when this is out, you can see the video on Jack's channel as well. You can find our links in our description and our bios related to our social media. So thank you everyone for joining. So the people who have stayed I think we are gonna discuss Paul Raven. So I woke up 5 in the morning my time today. For whatever reason, I just decided to check Twitter for a hot second, and I'm like, I just saw Paul stabbed by Torment, which I had a feeling it's gonna happen, but I felt that Marvel was gonna bait and switch us where they would have him
Yeah.
hit by Torment but survive.
Don't give me hope.
Yes, and
Cool
then
Hawkeye.
yeah, I saw it. I was like, he's definitely gonna survive this. But no, the next
Yeah.
thing they leaked is that no, 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 the boy's dead. And then I remembered that Carlos Gomez was tweeting about the issue, and he was saying if everyone loved the last issue, they will enjoy the upcoming issue even more. I didn't understand his game. Thank you, Carlos. I guess it's like we are finally done with the poor Rabin thing. Hopefully,
I
they
love
don't
it.
go the Flash Thompson route because I love Flash Thompson and he doesn't deserve to be treated miserably.
No.
But yeah, for now, let's celebrate.
Yes, but let's. Because the Paul situation could not have been. It wasn't just that it was poorly done. It really was like a punch in the jaw to the fans. Like, you got your hopes up that we were actually going to bring Peter and Mary. No, we're going to break them apart even further. We're going to then put Mary Jane with this other guy who is not exactly likable. Like, I would say of all the characters in the entire Marvel universe, Paul had the most punchable face I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Like, look up the
Yep.
word punch, look up the term punchable face. That's him.
Yep. And Dylan said it like the last Spider-Man issues. Dylan said all of that and more.
And he was right.
Yep. And, I just fear that they will have MG mourn him. But other than that, I'm glad,
Yeah.
Peter's doesn't care. Like, Peter is like, I'm going to get revenge just because he's a human who shouldn't
Yeah.
have died, but I don't really care.
Yeah.
And, like, you
We
see
know how
this
he
on
really
panel,
feels.
which is,
Yeah.
like, it's really great. Like, thankfully that's done. And, that's one less love triangle we have to worry about,
Praise Odin.
I think as we were discussing it, what are your thoughts on Black Cat and MJ and the current Black Cat series?
I haven't really kept up with it too much, but Black Cat is just, she's a fun, adventurous character to follow. I have mixed feelings. I got to say, I will admit one thing. I do think Venom as Mary Jane is growing on me. I know it can't last. I know it's not going to end well, but where it is right now, I'm not hating it. I'm liking it more and more. But with Black Cat, she's always been one of those characters who she is kind of like whatever crazy drama is going on, she just finds a way to avoid it. She is like
Yep.
the most, she knows how to, she's not a character who gets caught in all these overly dramatic plots. She just says, I'm just going to do my own thing. And if along the way I can have a little fun, so be it. That's what makes her so much fun because it doesn't matter
Yep.
what's going on. The soap opera doesn't matter to her. It's just, okay, if this person needs a hug. This person she's cute. He's cute. Let's
Yep.
just have some fun. Like I don't know
Yep.
if you followed her when she teamed up with Kang in the Avengers arc.
I read that.
The fact that she was the only character in that story who looked like she was having fun.
Yep.
And that's why I loved her
absolutely.
so much.
Yeah. I think, yeah,
Yeah.
I think I love her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's say what you want to say.
I'm just going to say she's a character who's easy to, she's just a fun character to follow. She doesn't take herself too seriously. She's never caught up in like overly serious subplots that make you hate everyone around her. She's just someone who does her own thing and she makes it work.
Yep. And for me, I love the fact that she cares about Peter. She definitely loves Peter,
Yes.
and it's not about just attraction, but the way she's moving on with her life while still caring about Peter is inspiring. Like, I think that a lot of writers should handle their characters this way because we had that issue in Beyond where she was talking to MJ about Peter and how she hates that she is the bad girl in the story.
Yeah.
And that she feels that she didn't deserve him and all of that stuff, which is great. And then you see her and MJ being best friends. She'd support the relationship and everything. That I think that this is where they should take Logan next, and they should take a lot of the characters next because that works well. As we said, it worked with Logan well in the Morrison run.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing is, unlike Logan, Black Cat is very self-aware. She knows who she is. She's very comfortable in her own skin. The problem with Logan and every pretty much in every iteration, he's very self-loathing. He loves to punish himself and he loves to drown himself in like distractions and stuff. So I am that's one thing that's one superpower that I think Black Cat has that no one else does. The level of her self-awareness.
Absolutely. So, with that being said, do you have anything do you want to say about Daredevil, Logan and Jean, anything we discussed today?
I think I've said enough about I'm probably going to go on other rants about the Fox X-Men, but I'll just say, yeah, that was the worst. The Fox movies did the worst love triangle of all time. Every character suffered because of it, and no one can convince me otherwise.
Absolutely. Yeah, for me, it's like just keep enjoying comics, everyone. And, I love having Jack on and I love hearing from you guys. We have definitely been
Okay.
getting a lot of positive feedback lately, which is great to see. Especially,
Awesome.
I'm an amateur podcaster when it comes to editing and other stuff. So like seeing people's support is great. So with that being said, we are gonna bring this episode to an end. If you enjoyed the show, follow us, me and Jack on Twitter. For me, on Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok as
Yep.
well. Like, hit us where you can find us, basically. Well, you can find this on YouTube and Spotify as well. So, and I'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye, everyone.
Yep. Have a good one. Take care and stay safe.
Thank you, Jack. You too.